But here's something that's interesting. That boycott energy has given way to something even stronger. Yes, like when you went from Natty Light to Mad Dog 2020.
This could all be over within 2 weeks. We could have Donald Trump gone, everything they've done reversed. Hell, we could have a national health care system and free public college. We could have socialism if we wanted it. We would just have to stop going to work.
Shout out to all the subscribers and the members here on the channel. Don't forget to like the video. My name is Reese Waters and I'm troubled. If you recall, previously when we were discussing SNAP benefits, there was some talk of a holiday blackout. If this goes forward and they're able to pull away people's benefits, there's only one natural conclusion.
To me, the only logical response to the government canceling SNAP benefits is for Americans to cancel the holiday season. Close the wallets. Close the wallets. You don't need to buy a turkey. You've had turkeys for the last how many years? You're good to skip a year. Black Friday hasn't Black Friday and I don't know how long. The deals suck. You don't need a new flat screen. You already got one from last year. Your kids have tablets. They have toys. They have electronics. They'll be good to miss out on 1 year. They'll be okay. Close the wallets. Cot boy. You know? We shouldn't be spending any money then. It makes no sense for, in response to the government taking food off people's tables, for us to then open our wallets and continue the economy as if nothing is wrong. It's time for a cop boy of the holiday season. The time of year where corporations make the most money, yeah, shut it down. Close the wallets.
I would say, to be clear, holidays have actually been canceled for me for quite some time. They've been canceled. My kid's too young to know about the holiday. We gonna get to a point where I don't have that option. So now that I have that option, it's being exercised. Now at the time, I was already planning to engage in a holiday blackout because, these parlays ain't hit. It's the Trailblazers. It's the Trailblazers. You know what I mean? With Chauncey Billups. But you know what? That's actually a real thing. It got the attention of the wider public.
A general strike, meaning not just an individual boycott against Home Depot or Target, but just stop spending money. This is an idea that is gathering steam, just so you all will know, you're getting that preview on the Joy Reid Show tonight, among a lot of people in the activist space, that what we may need to do is to cut off abruptly the money flowing into the United States.
So in light of the anger and frustration so many of us felt coming out of the government shutdown, like for instance, my inbox was flooded with emails like this one from Kathy. Dear Reese, I'm so angry I could spit bullets. I'm deeply disgusted with the Democratic Party's most recent decision to once again concede to the corrupt Republicans. They've once again shown they are the superior party on this side of the earth. I'm declaring myself an independent. You have to earn my vote. On a second note, in protest, I'll join others in their pursuit of democracy and fairness by not spending any unnecessary money during the holidays. No Black Friday. Let the wealthy support the retail businesses, and let us remember how we effectively handled the Target Corporation. Oh, I definitely remember that. I definitely remember the Target boycott. As far as just how devastating this has been to Target, based on the 2025 Q1 earnings report, the retailer showed a 3.1% drop in merchandise sales and a 3.8% decline in comparable store sales.
As of late, the discount department store has lost market share. And while its customers are spending about the same per quarter, Walmart and Costco's customers are spending even more. Between April 2024 and April 2025, Target lost nearly half of its share price.
Don't ask for nothing. Don't ask for nothing. Don't ask for nothing. You can't get nothing from me.
If I get into it with them, I gotta live here and you don't. Don't be getting it, you gonna get me in trouble.
And I can tell you this, to the CEO who laid it at the feet of the changing DEI policy, that was his decision. they finna drag you.
Damn. Target done fuck around and found out. You done fuck around and found out. You say 680 mil in losses. That's crazy. Just go ahead and bankrupt the place. Just go ahead and bankrupt the place. The Target, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think y'all gonna shake back. The folks who was rocking with y'all, who was spending money, doing them hauls and all that, y'all turned your back on them. You turned your back on them. Now you're feeling the wrath. You're feeling the pain. Hey, look, it is what it is. It is what it is. But y'all ain't think it was gonna be that bad, did you? You couldn't have known it was gonna be this bad, but it is.
Had Target down so bad, they started making AI videos with black hands just to show. We were shaming black shoppers for being in the general vicinity of Target.
Why he got you up in here and we doing a boycott? We ain't supposed to be in here. Sis, what you doing up in here? We supposed to be boycotting. Oh. You know we ain't supposed to be up in here. You ain't here. That's what I'm talking about. I'm proud of you. Give me a hug. Give me a hug. I'm proud of you. And I came to talk to us so we can think better of ourselves. Yes.
I better wait. My daughter did say that. I'm gonna wait.
Oh no, I wasn't in Target. I went to the Starbucks, was inside the Target. I didn't buy none at Target. I just went to the Starbucks. We're not doing Starbucks neither. I would add to that in one of my recent lives, one of the reasonings given for the inexplicable deal the Senate Democrats took was lobbying from corporate America. For once in my life, somebody heard my plea. Get off me. Get off me. Not that clip. Not that. So that boycott energy has only increased from then to now.
Half of the country has just sued the Trump administration over withholding SNAP benefits. Yeah, 24.
Notice anything about that, Matt?
I noticed something. You noticed the same thing? Yeah. Bet low in education. That wasn't what you got?
All northern states, mostly Democratic states. She goes on to say that some states are declaring emergencies or calling in the National Guard to help with food banks. And there's a reason they're doing that. The next video that I scrolled to was another friend of mine. When people's basic needs to survive, to live, are not met, it causes unrest. And it's because people have nothing left to lose. They have a choice to starve and die, let their children starve and die, or rob and steal. And things will get violent. And states don't want that.
Now, I just want to highlight a few things right here. One of the mitigating factors that I always will offer whenever there are discussions about crime, and we're using crime statistics, is talking about people not having access to the American dream. And the fact that whenever you have hopelessness and you have poverty, you will have crime. That's just a simple fact. And so the fact that people are offering this right now as a cause and effect makes perfect sense to me. I just wonder why these aren't the conversations that are being had when we're using crime statistics to demonize black folk. These aren't ever the conversations when we're using crime statistics to demonize black folk, but now it is the preparation for crime because of poverty and desperation. In fact, you have poverty and desperation being weaponized as a cauldron with the expectation that it will create crime. And don't think that the trick bag hasn't been laid and that people aren't aware of their overwhelming desire to try and crush any unrest or perceived unrest with overwhelming force. We've already seen troops in American cities for less. In fact, we've seen them for nothing. We've seen them picking up garbage. So imagine what might be possible if they actually have some there, irregardless of whose fault that might be.
Every politician, every wealthy person, every elite knows that you have to give people their basic needs of survival. Otherwise, the peace will be disrupted. And they're all afraid that we'll come after them. The problem with this is that it doesn't just make things more dangerous for them, it makes things more dangerous for all of us. So I'm not advocating for violence towards anyone, but it's a basic instinct. Now, looking at that map, you see the people who are standing with Trump, the states that are standing with Trump, are not providing for their people. They're also the same states that rely the heaviest on programs like SNAP, EBT, WIC.
Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it. There it is.
They're also states that are most heavily populated with people who seem to be the perpetuators of political violence. Many of us and many, I'm sure, politicians and elites are wondering why we haven't sparked off into violent riots and things at this point already. I don't know if they're trying to push us towards that, trying to instigate that. Many people say so. Or if they're just plain fucking greedy and just seeing how far they can get, how much they can take. I'm sure you've seen many people on the internet saying that our protests, no matter how big they are worthless because they haven't created change. And I don't think they're worthless. I think they're very valuable. I think that bringing all of these people together under the same energy and wanting to make the change is the first step. Now we have to do the things that make the change. And I don't want that thing to be violence because that will put us all in danger. There is one last ditch effort that we can do that's non-violent, and that's the general strike. And it's also these other boycotts. We have boycotts and smaller strikes. This one that's going from November 25th till December 2nd to boycott any and everything, just blacking out the system. I think that's a good one, but because of it, that encompasses Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and that whole weekend. And that's where most corporations make their money, that weekend. So we can hit them hard in their pocketbook.
Now, that boycott energy has only increased as we get closer to Thanksgiving. But here's something that's interesting. That boycott energy has given way to something even stronger. Yes, like when you went from Natty Light to Mad Dog 2020.
This could all be over within 2 weeks. We could have Donald Trump gone, everything they've done reversed. Hell, we could have a national health care system and free public college. We could have socialism if we wanted it. We would just have to stop going to work. We need a general strike, not a little block party on Saturday, a general strike where we say we're not going back to work until we get what we want. And it wouldn't even take everyone. It would take like 5% of us. And people go, oh, well, they'll just fire us. I need my job. They can't fire everyone. If everyone did it, they can't fire us. They'd have to play by our rules. We could get anything we want. You should still go to No Kings. You should. It's important. But it's less than the bare minimum, and it's not going to do a goddamn thing. They're not going to listen to us. We need sustained, massive protests the size of No Kings and a general strike. And we could get anything we want. Literally.
Wow, that sounds like a whole strike. That sounds like a whole strike. One hole in that though, you said it only takes 5% of us. Y'all know they're gonna be fighting over what 5? Y'all know good and well they're gonna be fighting over what. If they're not gonna be fighting over that last printer scanner on Black Friday, they definitely gonna be fighting over what 5% are striking. I have a comment. Nobody in the history of human existence has ever fought over the printer scanner on Black Friday. No, the printer scanner is always the stuff that be sitting there in the afternoon for the people that slept in. You know that. That's why you got 3 of them.
This goes out to all of the mayors from all of the cities across the United States. Listen up. The mayor of Chicago is calling for a blackout on all corporations. This is how you run your city.
There are some billionaires and corporate leaders that want us to have sympathy for them, and they have just received the greatest tax cuts at the expense of health care and housing and education and transportation and good paying jobs. So here's what we need to do in this moment. If my ancestors as slaves can lead the greatest general strike in the history of this country, taking it to the ultra-rich and big corporations, we can do the same today. I'm calling on black people, white people, brown people, Asian people, immigrants, gay people from around this country to stand up against tyranny and to send a clear message to the ultra-rich and big corporations. We are going to make them pay their fair share in taxes to fund our schools, to fund jobs, to fund healthcare, to fund transportation. Democracy will live on because of this generation.
So with that being said, this goes out to all of the mayors of every city across the United States. Take heed, listen to what this mayor of Chicago has to say, and bring the people together so that we can all be on the same page, on the same note. Blackout the System starts November 26th to December 2nd. Y'all know what you need to do. There are more of us than there are of them.
That's right. That was the mayor of Chicago calling for action during the No Kings protest. And if you thought he was caught up in the moment, he doubled down on it later.
What about this moment compelled you to send this message at this time?
Well, first of all, thank you all for the work that you do. And, you know, when you have a sitting president declare war on American cities, the best way to beat back against authoritarianism is through collective action. As the son and the product of the labor movement, the civil rights movement, it's the great potential that Dr. King imagined when he spoke before AFSCME in 1967, that if the labor rights movement and the civil rights movement were to ever collide, what enormous potential it would have. And obviously I'm paraphrasing. But the war that this president has declared on the city of Chicago and working people across America, this is the time for us to be united, because clearly the ultra-rich and billionaires are united. And if we're going to beat back against this tyranny and authoritarianism, workers all over the country, quite frankly around the globe, have to be even more united.
And the fascinating thing is, come to find out, people been working on this for years.
At this point, I'm sure many of you have seen the clips of the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, calling for a general strike. Did you know that there are already official efforts organizing a general strike, and they have been ongoing for the past couple of years? You can go to this website. There's also a link in my bio to connect with more information and a Discord server where organizers are discussing the many needs and preparation efforts that need to be fulfilled to be able to organize a general strike of this measure. Through the Discord, you can speak to all sorts of organization leaders, also regional organization leaders that are helping to put in the efforts to get this strike erected. Through the Discord, there's also information on other smaller movements that are taking place that you can join. But I want to remind a lot of y'all that are very impatient that in order to achieve a strike of this size, it takes time and it does take preparation to ensure nobody is harmed in the process or in the effects of a strike like this. In order to achieve a successful general strike, we need 11 million people to participate. That also means that 11 million people will need to be adequately cared for to be able to carry out the strike until demands are met. Anyways, just go to the website and check out the information, join the Discord server, start discussing these ideas with people around you, start organizing in your community, get to know your neighbors.
And we've even seen it called for by Senator Gallego in case the elections are called off in 2026.
As soon as it gets bad, just hit the streets and we, shut down streets. If this is for democracy, I'm talking about, if democracy is on the line and they try to take away people's access to the ballot, they try to stop the count or anything else like that, no bullshit. We take to the streets and we shut everything down. Right.
It literally is sort of general strike.
General strike. Okay. Don't buy anything. Don't go to work. Don't, protest everywhere you can. When it hits that point, that's it. I know someone's like, oh, we have been. Like, no, I'm talking like straight up, nothing moves. Everyone stops working. No, like people, it'll affect the economy. And more importantly, leaders will understand that you can't fuck around with people in their democracy. And look, there's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines right now that aren't joining us, but they will if it gets to that point. That's a point where I think you're going to see a lot more mobilization among Americans where like, yeah, now you've crossed the line. So we have our consistent activist base. We have even your mod Democrats that will show up to a protest. Right. But to get to a point where you could have, a true mass mobilization, a true sick out, call out. I mean, this is when we call every union that we can. And we say hey, have your workers not fly. Flight attendants don't show up, planes don't fly. Get pilots, whatever you can to join you to basically bring everything to a total standstill and halt. And that way, that's how you put pressure on a regime such as the Trump administration.
But of course, the question that has to be answered whenever there's any kind of action of this magnitude or scale is, what are your goals? What are the things that you're asking for?
Here's what I want out of a general strike. Universal health care is non-negotiable. Non-negotiable at this point. Universal basic income. Yes. Every place that has done it has seen a more productive, happier populace. And that will be because 3, we tax billionaires at a 95% rate.
I'm sorry, you said 95% for billionaires? 95%? Well, that's not going to affect me. So I'm a couple dollars short of that. So I will not be at 95.
And if you think that's outlandish, go back in history. We used to tax them hard enough that they couldn't become billionaires. And we need to do that again. Period. I also feel like we need term limits for the Supreme Court. We need term limits for senators. We need term limits for House representatives. We need the cronyism out.
I definitely agree with the term limits. Because I'm tired of walking around downtown DC and I got to help a representative across the street. I be late to work all the time.
We also need to have a robust Voting Rights Act passed. We need a robust new Green Deal. And, AOC and Bernie Sanders have that stuff already written out. So the framework is there. We just need to strike hard enough we get all of it, because this is no longer a nation for the people by the people. It is a nation for the billionaires by the billionaires. And they are the biggest minority we have, and it's unacceptable that they are running everything. I don't like living in an oligarchy. And I'm poor enough that boycotting the crap out of things is going to be really, really easy. I don't have the money to spend anyway. But there will be a couple things that will be hard to do. However, I boycott Walmart for over 25 years. I think we're up to the task, folks. I think we are.
Oh, so you already boycotting Walmart? That's not bad. That's not bad. I wonder if the workers at Ross are on strike. But they say we not gonna pick nothing up. No, we on strike. I think they've been on strike since the 80s. But not everybody is on board with a general strike. There's quite a bit to be prepared for. Here's another perspective from Heather Cox Richardson, expanding the many ways people are protesting now across the country is far more powerful than a general strike. A strike is actually easier for him to deal with because he can trigger martial law and call off midterms. I have a question. If there's a general strike, then we're not assuming just unrest and upheaval, right? So what would be the justification for triggering martial law and calling off elections? I'm sorry, are you trying to use logic and reason on this administration? Thank you.
But I just feel like it would be a much easier task. I'm not saying either task is easy, but it'd be much easier to try to get a workforce of a corporation to come together to go on a general strike because if they all work together in the same conditions they're under the same oppressor, right? I feel like it'd be better to get them to come together and go on a general strike than it would be to try to convince millions of people to just not buy a product from that corporation, right? To just not buy from that corporation. You're taking the workforce that they rely on, the infrastructure, the delivery drivers, whatever that might be, right? Their actual operational capabilities, and you're walking out. So they no longer have that. So it's not like they can pivot and do something else. It's not like they can just wait around and ride out the storm while they're waiting. They lose functional capabilities. They can't operate like they were. They will start to hemorrhage money. They will start to lose profit. They will start to bleed out, and these shareholders will very rapidly make them have to respond and do something to fix that situation because they're not going to sit there and just let their money bottom out. And I might be wrong, but I really think that would happen faster than workers needing to running out of being able to take care of themselves.
Meanwhile, if we want a general strike, we have to be honest and realistic about what that takes and what it entails. Because if we are not realistic, it's not going to happen. You're asking 12 million people, because you would need about 12 million people, to walk out of their jobs and not have any income. Most people who you would be asking to do this don't have a savings. They have not stocked up. The communities around them are not organized to support such an endeavor. You at least have to feed these 12 million people for the period of time it would take to wait out the billionaires, because that's what it'll come up to. Playing a game of chicken with the billionaires. And if you ask me, you need a sustained 12 million at the very least for 3 months. You have to be able to feed your community for 3 months. If things break out into riots and looting, disorganization and chaos, that is going to become very dangerous for people. There is the likelihood that it could become dangerous anyway, but the optics of what happens matters. Getting your demands met relies on organization, relies on a lack of intense looting and riots. You can't prevent everything, but if it devolves into chaos, things will not get better. You will not get your demands met. But if you want a general strike, if we want a general strike, if we are not organizing our communities with mutual aid, with being able to provide food for months on end, to be able to assist people with shelter, medical care, it's not going to happen. At least not in an organized way. The likelihood that things devolve to a point where people have nothing, they're hungry, they have no money, they're losing their homes, and they're in the streets because of that, disorganized, that is a likelihood given the situation that we're in, and one that will drag on for quite some time and will cause a maximum amount of harm to individuals. So if a general strike is something that's going to happen, we do have to be serious, honest, and realistic about what it takes and start getting on board with that.
So feed 12 million people for 3 months. So sounds like we're going to have to get some mutual aid, and we'll have to make sure that that's in place. Huh?
Oh my God. Okay. I'm tired of getting the same comment when I'm talking about a general strike, and it's really pissing me off because people just are, these might be bots or it might just be stupid people. or it might be the CIA or the IDF. I don't fucking know, but it's really annoying. And it's people who keep saying we need mutual aid networks and all this shit before we can do a general strike or to support a general strike. You guys need to fucking, like, if these are real people, I need you to try to use your brain for 10 fucking seconds. Holy shit.
But wait, don't you got to make sure that the aid is available before people go on? You got to plan ahead. You know what I mean? Like having a car to sleep in before you break up with your girlfriend.
We cannot build mutual aid networks while everyone is spending every fucking scrap of their fucking motivation, time, and effort into working within their fucking slave labor system. We need to go on strike first, and then all of that manpower going to create mutual aid networks will actually be effective in real time. They are going to thwart any fucking attempts at a network, a mutual aid network, because they have the funds to thwart it, because we're still actively contributing our labor to the fucking system that we're trying to escape from or break or change.
That makes a lot of sense. I got you. Now we all good. That definitely makes a lot of sense. Now, when it comes to mutual aid and collective action, what that presumes is a sense of unity and responsibility for one another. I know, right?
People have been floating the idea of a general strike in the United States, and I totally get it. When people feel ignored, when voting, marching, calling, and writing letters doesn't seem to make a difference, refusing to participate in the system that ignores you starts to sound like the only option left. And I'm not saying they're wrong, quite the contrary, but it's important to understand what that means in practice. It means people choosing to stop feeding an economy and a government that takes their labor, their taxes, and their time while giving less and less back in return. It means saying, if you won't represent us, we won't keep running your machine. If you've been watching what's happened in France over the past few years, you've seen what that looks like in action. Millions of people have taken to the streets and walked off the job to protest government policies, most recently about raising the retirement age. Public transportation shuts down, schools close, trash piles up, energy plants pause production. It isn't a single day of protest. It's an entire country saying, we refuse to keep things running until you listen. That's what a general strike really is. It's not chaos, it's collective refusal. And it's worked in France for decades because their system is built in a way that makes that kind of unity possible. In France, when people strike, they don't just make noise. They make everything stop. Trains, buses, schools, refineries. The rhythm of the country comes to a halt. And that's because in France, all roads lead to Paris.
Well, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure all our roads lead to Ohio. That's what I've been told. Is they all go to Ohio. They all go through Short North. That's what I heard.
If Paris stops, France stops, and everyone knows it. That's why strikes there work so often. The government has to negotiate because the people have the leverage, and the people know they have it. Here in the United States, it's different. Our country isn't built around one center. It's spread out. We're a patchwork of 50 states and thousands of separate systems, most of them privately run and disconnected from one another. All roads here don't lead to one place. They lead everywhere and nowhere, all at once. So when people walk out in one city, the next one keeps running. A strike in California might not even make headlines in Florida. That doesn't mean we can't organize something powerful. It just means it would take extraordinary coordination and a shared purpose that crosses every state line and every social divide.
And if there are any questions about the lack of unity that we have right now in this country, look no further than that patchwork of states and who did and didn't decide to sue for SNAP. Yes, we have let 'em fight and FAFO banquets happening on the left and on the right simultaneously. And y'all talking about unity?
The truth is that the United States, particularly white Americans, is just not mentally prepared for the kind of sustained opposition that this is going to take.
Let me translate that for y'all. White people can't be trusted. That's what he just said. He just said white people can't be trusted. And if you disagree with that, ask yourself how you felt about that in October, and then how you felt about that in November of 2024. Yeah. But we gonna strike together?
But it's not like France, right, where resistance is cultural, where disruption is a form of civic engagement. It's practically an art form. Here, especially among white Americans, and the racial distinction matters. There is no real appetite for sustained discomfort, much less the willingness to take on collective risk. That's been engineered over generations. Comfort has become compliance. And that's why I have a hard time taking most calls for a general strike seriously. The performative ones coming from the chattering classes, not the folks who are actually in the trenches when it comes to organized labor, or when it comes to active resistance and resistance movements, with which I am entirely sympathetic. Not because it isn't the right tactic, but because it requires a culture broadly conceived that we do not have. It takes infrastructure, it takes clarity, it takes shared sacrifice, and a preparation for potential sacrifice. None of that exists at scale in the United States. What we have instead is institutionalism and inertia, particularly among white Americans who still treat court rulings and the announcements of court rulings as if they carry some sort of inherent authority, as if the Constitution has some sort of inherent authority, as if people will autocorrect, as if this regime will somehow respond to some federal district court judge's ruling and go, yeah, right, got us, we'll stop. Or who point to Trump endorsing 2026 congressional candidates as if we're on track for a normal election under fair conditions. Yes, that election might well happen. It probably will happen. If you think that it's going to be under the same voting circumstances that you're used to, then I beg you to take a pause and read the room.
And I want to thank Professor Tad Sturmer for that. I recommend you follow his channel as well. He's always full of fantastic information. And I take his conclusion very, very seriously. But there's quite a lot of action in the intermediary before we get to that point of a general strike. And apparently, a lot of you guys are on board. I got this from Allie. Hey, Miss Ray, Reese, and the team. Here's one of the blackouts that's being pushed, that's joining in for raising funds for Feeding America, right there at teamfeed.feedingamerica.org/teams. You said on live today that you wanted to make some content on boycotts. Look forward to your shows each day still. Thank you for all that you do. And I want to thank you for reaching out and sending that link, as well as to Kathy for communicating to me exactly how she felt. This is a phenomenal community that we have right here, and I am very grateful to be a part of it. And in general, I am grateful to be a part of folks who generally care for and look after one another. Hopefully, as that community grows, the larger community of Americans who feel that level of empathy and responsibility for one another, then we can get to a point where we can be effective when it comes to a call for collective action. I don't think today's the day, though. I don't know that we're there. I don't know what needs to happen. I don't know. That's why I'm troubled.